So, as Italy celebrates the 80th anniversary of its republic, we're going to dive into a partnership that has kind of quietly reshaped both nations for 8 decades. I'm talking about the relationship with the United States. And look, this isn't just a story about treaties and politics. It's about a really radical exchange of ideas, one that completely redefined what success and even failure means on both sides of the Atlantic.
Okay, just read that for a second. Failure is part of your resume. I know, it sounds totally backward, right? But this single idea, this is maybe the most profound thing America gave to Italy's recent growth. It's not a piece of technology, it's not some product, it's something way, way more powerful, a brand new state of mind.
You see, the most critical American import, if you want to call it that, it wasn't a thing you can hold. It was a mindset, a whole new way of thinking about business, about ambition, and especially about risk. And it completely changed Italian markets, really from the inside out.
To really get just how huge this shift was, we have to ask ourselves a question. For decades, what did it actually mean to fail in Italy's traditional business culture? What was the real consequence if your business didn't make it?
The answer? In one word? Shame. Yeah. For generations, if you were an entrepreneur and you had to close your company, you weren't just out of business. A lot of the time, you were considered finished. Done. Socially, professionally, the whole thing. And that, right there, creates this massive cultural barrier to taking the kind of big swings that really drive innovation.
So here you can see the two models, side by side. On the left, you've got the classic Italian businesses, family-run, deeply connected to its local territory, and really cautious with money. Then, on the right, boom, the American startup model, funded by venture capital, thinking globally from day one, and not just accepting risk, but embracing it. For a new generation of Italian entrepreneurs, this wasn't just another option. It was like someone handed them the key to a world that had always been locked.
So, if we boil it down, these are the 3 pillars that came over from the US and created a totally new ecosystem. First, a culture that sees risk as productive. Second, a business model built to scale up and go global. And third, the venture capital to pour fuel on the fire. You put those together, and you've got a launchpad for a whole new kind of Italian innovation.
Okay, but how did this new mindset actually play out in the real world? Well, there is no better place to look than the automotive industry. It's just the perfect case study of this cross-pollination in action. Right after World War II, the American influence was unmistakable. The whole Fordist model of mass production, focused on scale, standardization, and efficiency, that was absolutely essential in rebuilding Italy's industrial strength and literally putting the country on wheels.
But, and this is the crucial part, Italy didn't just copy and paste. It took that American model of mass production and did something amazing with it. It reinterpreted it, injecting it with Italy's own unique DNA, incredible design, a deep sense of beauty, and an obsession with quality. We're talking about Fiat, sure, but also Ferrari and Alfa Romeo.
The best way to describe this whole dynamic is mutual learning. The US offered the blueprint for how to get big and compete on a global scale. And in return, Italy became this incredible global laboratory for excellence, showing the world how to fuse mass production technology with pure, unmatched style.
In this engine, this partnership, it wasn't just firing on all cylinders in the car industry. Its economic impact was felt across the entire nation, and it has been for 80 years.
I mean, it started right at the very beginning of the Republic. You had the Marshall Plan helping to rebuild Italy's industrial base from the ground up. That then evolved into decades of steady American investment and expertise flowing in. And where are we today? It's this deeply woven ecosystem where businesses of all sizes, big and small, work together across global supply chains.
And the sheer scale of this partnership today is, well, it's just staggering. We're talking about total trade topping $114 billion. This isn't just a friendly partnership, it's a transatlantic economic powerhouse.
And to really put America's role into perspective, just look at this chart. If you take the EU out of the picture, the United States is the #1, the single most important export market for Italian goods, period. That makes this relationship absolutely vital for Italy's entire economy.
And what's really incredible? This economic bond is just so resilient. Even in a really complicated global environment with new trade tariffs and all that, Italian exports to the US kept on growing by over 7% last year alone. That just goes to show you how deep and fundamental the strength of this relationship really is.
So, that's the story so far. But where does this 80-year-old partnership go from here?
Well, as we're about to see, it's actually becoming more essential than ever as we try to tackle some of the biggest challenges of our time.
Now, the collaboration is zeroing in on the biggest challenges we all face. Things like securing our supply chains, driving the massive digital transformation, and leading the transition to new forms of energy. Advanced manufacturing, critical technologies, these are the shared missions that are going to define this partnership for the next century.
And this, right here, gets to the absolute heart of this entire story. The success of this 80-year journey was never, ever about America replacing what was Italian. It has always been about cross-pollination, about this amazing hybridization of cultures and ideas that creates something far stronger and better than either one could ever build on its own.
When you boil it all down, this is really a story of liberation. Liberation from that old fear of failure, and liberation from the idea that things have to stay the way they've always been. It proves that when two great cultures really listen to each other, they don't just trade products, they build a better future together. So happy 80th birthday, Italy, and thank you, America.